Hi children, good morning one and all. I welcome you all to today's video class. In today's video class, we are going to see the third part of this second lesson. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. The first two parts of this long world around voyage dealt with the adventurous journey made by the writer with his family members. The first leg of this journey passed pleasantly as they sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. But the trouble started when they left Cape Town. On the second day out of Cape Town, they began to encounter strong gales. The giant waves and strong gale threatened and alarmed them. The mental condition of the voyagers are vacillating between hope and despair. The storm jib was drawn, oil skins and light sockets were also put on. Heavy mooring ropes were looped across the stern, but all the precautions proved inadequate. The roar of high waves increased to a thunder. The narrator and his wife Mary sat together, holding their hands, fearing that their end was very near. So far now, what we have dealt with in the first two parts of this lesson. In today's video class, we are going to see the incidents that took place on January 6th and thereafter. Finally, what happened to them? Did they safely reach the shore? Everything is going to be dealt in today's video class, children. Yes, I hope all of you have the textbook with you, and keep the textbook always with you whenever you are ready to attend the video class. Yes, now turn to the page number, turn to the page number 16. From the bottom, the last paragraph. That evening, Mary and I sat together, holding hands, as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken blanks. We both felt the end was very near. That was what we dealt in the last video class. That evening, that particular fateful day, the writer and Mary sat together and discussed about their survival. The motion, every motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken blanks. Both of them didn't know what to do. They felt that the end was very near, very near. Okay, next, ray of hope. But wave walker rode out the storm, and by the morning of January 6th, with the wind easing, I tried to get a reading on the sextant. So by the morning of January 6th, wave walker had come out of the storm. The wind had eased. The force of the wind had reduced to some extent. Then the writer went in the chart room and made a study of the charts, and he had made other calculations also. He made his calculations based on the sextant reading. Sextant here refers to an instrument for measuring angles and distance. Let me write it on the board. Sextant. Actually, this is an instrument for measuring and instrument what's the use of this instrument? For measuring angles and distance. For measuring angles and distance. Okay. So mostly the voyagers used to take this type of instruments when they used to go for long voyage. It helps them to analyze the angles and as well as the distance they have to cover, the distance they have covered so far. Okay, fine. So the writer went in the chart room and made a detailed study of the charts and made other calculations also. He made his calculations based on wind speed, drift and current of the water. See, I tried to get a reading on the sextant reading. Based on that reading of the sextant, he calculated all these things, yet they have to cover the distance. Back in the chart room, I worked on wind speed. Based on the wind speed only, they can calculate how many hours they will take to cover the distance, and then the changes of curves. According to the wind speed, they have to change. They have to put down the sails. They have to whether to stop the boat or to continue the journey. All these decisions can be made only based on the speed of the wind and current of the water. Drift and current in an effort to calculate our position. All these will be taken into account while calculating the distance and the speed and the time they need to take to cover the distance. The best I could determine was that we were somewhere in 1,50,000 kilometers of ocean looking for a 65 kilometer wide island. Only thing, now the problem before the writer, the narrator, is to locate a 65 kilometers away island. Actually, they have to locate it in 1,50,000 kilometers ocean. How difficult it is. Actually, that best he could know was that in 1,50,000 kilometers wide ocean, the wide ocean is 1,50,000 kilometers. That was a wide of the ocean. In that wide ocean, they have to identify an island which is just 65 kilometers wide. We are looking for a 65 kilometers wide island. While the writer and his wife were making calculations, what was happening? So what does this paragraph say? So both of them were to think a lot, the distance that they have to cover and the speed they have to drive with which the boat, and the current of the and the force of the wind, current of the water, everything they have to calculate. All these things were done by the writer, and based on his calculations with the help of the sextant and instrument, he has to decide the time they have to take to cover the distance. And nearly they were looking out for to locate a 65 kilometers wide island in a wide range of 1,50,000 kilometer width of the sea or ocean. While I was thinking, shoemaking, moving painfully, joined me. When they were doing all these calculations, very important calculations they were doing, at the time the narrator's daughter came in, but she came there with great much pain because she has sustained some injuries on her head as well as on her eyes, nearby eyes. So she was able enough to bear all such pain. So just as she entered, painfully joined the writer, the narrator. The left side of her head was now very swollen. She has got severe injuries on the left of her head, and the injury now had started swollen. And her blackened eyes, the eyes, you know that very well, when you have sustained some injuries or hurt nearby or above or all around the eyes, immediately it will become blackened because it is a soft part of the body. So, and her blackened eyes narrowed to slits. She gave me a card she had made. So when the writer and his wife were making such a good calculations, her daughter moved painfully up to him. The left side of her head was now very swollen. Her blackened eyes narrowed to slits. Why she came there? Just she gave a card to her father. Dear, my dad, just go through this card. I have some message. Through this card you can get that message. She gave that card to her dad, and she asked her dad to read it. On the front she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me with the words, here are some funny people. So she gave a card and she asked her father to read. In the front of that card she has drawn a caricature picture, just like a cartoon picture. She has drawn caricatures pictures of Mary and the writer. The picture of both of them were on the front of the card. There she had written a word also. Here are some funny people. See, here are some funny people. With that word, she had drawn the caricature of the writer and his wife, that is the girl's father and mother. With the word, here are some funny people. Did they make you laugh? She asked. I laughed a lot as well, of course. The attempt which has been made by the young daughter made him laugh. He laughed a lot as well. As inside there was a message. What message? How I love you both. There was a message. See, how I love you both. See, inside the card, this was a message. So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. Somehow we had to make it. The positive attitude of this girl has been shown through the words what she has written and the message what she wanted to convey to her parents. So she had drawn pictures of her parents with some funny commands. She has also given a message. It was written like, oh how I love you both. The very word, the message showed how much the girl loved her parents. It also showed her positive attitude. When they were in a gloomy mood, when they were in despair of reaching the destination, the message and the card done by that girl gave a good hope to the parents. So the card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. It reflected the positive attitude of that child, young child. She gave me a card she had made. Okay, so this card to say thank you and let's hope for the best. The word is very important. Though they were not very sure of reaching the shore, but the girl, the child had given a positive command through her message. Somehow we had to make it. We will achieve a target. That was a basic value of the message given by the child. Next, I checked and rechecked my calculations. The writer checked again and again. The writer rechecked his calculations also. We had lost our main campus. Actually, usually you know that children, only when the navigator or the sailors or the people, those who are making travel, the voyage, used to find the directions with the help of the compass. It's an instrument which helps them to find out the directions. But unfortunately, they had lost their main campus when they met with the sea, when they had attacked by the gale and giant storms. I was using a spare, but fortunately the writer had a spare one. Just he started to use it. which had not been corrected for magnetic variations. That is important. So the main purpose, the main use of the compass is it should be matched with the magnetic force or magnetic variation. With the help of magnetic variations only north to south pole it crosses. It shows you the direction. It is general things you might have studied in your science classes. So it has to be corrected for magnetic variation. But the spare, what the writer, the narrator had, has not been corrected for magnetic variation. That is another problem. So without such a proper magnetic variations, they cannot identify the location, the directions also. And I made an allowance for this, but he tried to connect it. And another estimate of the influence of the westerly currents, he tried to make a calculation. Here, prevailing winds from the west towards the east in the middle latitudes is called westerly. Actually, you should know the meaning of these things, children. See, so west, I made an allowance for this and another estimate of the influence of the westerly currents. So westerly, here it stands for the prevailing winds. Normally they used to blow from the west towards the east in the middle latitudes. Let me write it on the board, because these are all the glossary which were taken from geography. Unless you know the meaning of these words, you cannot just understand the lesson well. Prevailing wind, wind prevailing or prevailing winds from west towards east. From west towards east in the middle latitudes. The middle latitudes. Okay. So they are called, they are actually called westerly currents. They originate from the high pressure areas. These westerly actually originates. This westerly originates from where? From the high pressure areas and trend towards the poles and steer cyclones Actually, these westerly winds originate from the high pressure areas and trend towards the poles, north pole, south pole, like that, and they steer cyclones. Though the current of these westerly winds has to be calculated carefully, which flow through this part of the Indian Ocean because they have to cross it. They are unique winds. Comes from the correction of the origin. The western lines run west to east. So very important. So these to be calculated. The westerlies are associated with the changeable weather common to middle latitude. They are common to middle latitude. Let me explain once again. These westerlies, they are the special winds. They are associated with the changeable weather. Normally are common found to the middle latitude. Okay, these types of winds are very unique. They come from the direction of their origin. Where they originate from the high pressure areas and trend towards the poles and steer cyclones. Wind and trend towards the poles, and they also steer cyclones. Normally they originate from west and travel towards the east in the middle latitudes. That's important. So the writer, now it is the right time for the writer to calculate an allowance he has to make, the spare campus, and he has to make corrections for magnetic variations, and then he had to make an allowance for this, and he had to make other estimation, very important, especially the influence of these westerlies, the current which flow through this part of the Indian Ocean. Without all these calculations, he cannot decide the time, distance, travel direction. Everything has to be made or calculated based on these things only. Therefore, the narrator tried to calculate all these things very carefully and cautiously. Okay, fine. About 2 p.m., I went on check and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. If we were lucky, I told him with a conviction I did not feel he could expect to see the island at about 5 p.m. So he had very careful calculation with the help of the spare compass. Then the writer checked and rechecked also his calculations. At about 2 p.m., he had completed all his things and he went on the deck. Then he asked one of the crew member, he asked him to steer the ship. He gave instruction also at 185 degree. He told him that by following that course, just to steer the boat at 185 degrees. If we drive the boat in such a course, we expect to reach or to see that island at about 5 p.m. Now it is 2 o'clock. Within 3 hours, fortunately, if we are fortunate, if we are lucky enough, we will reach that island. Then he went down and dozed off, just slept in his cabin. So with the hope that evening at 5 o'clock, they would reach the island. He calculated, recalculated the direction, the force of the wind, the current of the wind, and the time probably it will take to cover the distance, and the distance to be covered, and from the place, the distance they have to travel to reach the island, everything he calculated, he checked, and he instructed the crew to drive the boat at a particular course, and by doing such things they could reach safely the island about 5 p.m. in the evening if they are lucky. Then he went down to his cabin to doze off. What happened? Then with a heavy heart I went below, climbed on my bunk, and amazingly dozed off. So he went down actually to just to take his deep slumber, and he climbed on my bunk, the place where he used to sleep, and amazingly, unexpectedly, and with surprisingly, because he was not in a proper mood to sleep, but the tiredness made him to sleep. He dozed off. He slept well. He went to deep slumber. But when he woke up at 6 p.m., it was about dawn and was growing dark. He thought that at the speed they were going, they must have missed the island. That was he thought. So when he looked out, it was getting dark. I knew we must have missed the island. And with the sail we had left, we could not hope to beat back into the westerly winds. So unknowingly he thought that they have crossed the island where they have to go. because the boat was steered at such a good speed. So the writer estimated that they have crossed. Speed they are going, they must have missed the island. But it is not possible for them to come back also, because they cannot just go back against the current of the west winds. And also it was not at all possible to beat back in the wind, because they have weak sails. All the sails were damaged. So with the remaining sails they can't just go back against the current of the west winds. That was another problem. Once if they missed that island, it is not possible for them to go back. Then what happened? At that moment, a tossed head appeared by my bunk. Can I have a hug? Jonathan asked. She was right behind him. Just then, the writer's son came there. She was right behind him. Can I have a hug? See, like this. Can I have a hug? Jonathan asked. She was also right behind him. Why? The writer, the narrator just don't know why the children came there, why they were so happy, why they want to have a hug. Can I have a hug? John asked. Why am I getting a hug now? The writer asked. Because you are the best dad in the whole world and the best captain. The son replied, oh my dad, your calculation never goes wrong. We have reached the shore. We are very near to the island. The son replied, not today, John, I am afraid. But not knowing where they were, the writer immediately told, why my son? You are so happy and you see, over ambitious, you want to have a hug. You appreciated me as the best dad, and you have appreciated me as the best captain also. I don't know, why do you say like that? What happened to you? My son replied, not today, John, I am afraid. Why you must be? Said Shu in a matter-of-fact voice. You found the island. Dad, your calculation is very perfect. Finally, we have reached the island. Wow, what? I shouted, the writer shouted. Yes, it is out there, look out. It is in front of us. The chorously they shouted, as big as a battleship. Such a louder voice. It's out there in front of us, said everybody together. So they were so happy. They got excited. The writer, what happened? She rushed on deck and gasped with the relief at stark outline of the Amsterdam. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation, the most beautiful island in the world. So immediately the writer went running to the deck. He could see the complete outline of the island. Yeah, Amsterdam. What was that island? How was it located? What is the width and breadth and the size of that island? How it looked like? It was only a dull piece of a volcanic rock, that's all. There was a little vegetation in it. There was a total idea about that island. But to him, it was the most beautiful island in the world. To the narrator, it was the most beautiful island in the world. We anchored offshore for the night. So they have planned to get into that island next day morning. They just offshore anchored. And the next morning, all the inhabitants of that island came to their rescue to help them. They came there of the island, cheered as they helped us ashore. With the land under my feet again, my thoughts were full of Larry and Herbal, cheerful and optimistic under the direct stress, and of Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those crucial hours. This is the time to remember the part played by all the participants of that world voyage. The narrator remembered the excellent performance of those two crewmen who helped the narrator at the time of the risky time, at the time of risk, when they faced problems, when they were not able to face the problems at the time, these two crewmen extended the helping hand. And just thankfully the narrator remembered, full of Larry and Herbal. Cheerful, they were very cheerful, and they were optimistic. Though they were under the direct stress, and he also remembered the part played by his wife Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those crucial hours. She too helped them a lot to reach the target. Most of all, I thought of 7-year-old girl. He remembered his beloved daughter. Just as she was 7-year-old children, you just imagine, who did not want us to worry about a head injury. When she had sustained head injuries, with that she didn't want to disturb their parents, because they were trying very hard to reach the destination, to come out of the dangerous zone. They were trying their level best. They want to save all the people who were traveling with them in the voyage, in the boat. So the child did not want them to worry about a head injury, which subsequently took 6 minor operations to remove a recurring blood clot between skin and skull. Just imagine how much injury, the deep injury she has sustained, but she didn't bother about it. With that, she didn't want to disturb their parents when they were very busy to save the boat from the sinking. And of a 6-year-old boy who was not afraid to die. He was ready to die when we can all be together. That was a courageous and bold statement given by that boy. So finally they reached the destination. So it was a happy end without any damage to the life of anyone. They safely reached the island. And see, actually, let me sum up, let me give you a brief narration about this lesson, children. Listen to me very carefully. The real meaning of the adventure. Real meaning of adventure. The narrator and his family loved adventure. Life is full of horrors and excitement. The world is full of all sorts of people. Most of them like to lead a risk-free and peaceful life. You know that, children? Many of us, most of us like to lead such a risk-free and peaceful life only. Even in this pandemic situation, we are ready to help others, those who need. But apart from that, the general attitude of the people is to save themselves and their family members. And they want to lead a risk-free and peaceful life. But there are a few among us who believe that if we want to live life to the fullest, we have to go beyond the day-to-day routine. Okay, that is the lesson teaches. If you want to live life to the fullest extent, we have to go beyond the day-to-day routine. What we are living, what we are doing at present is the day-to-day routine. Yeah, learning something, attending the school, doing homework, doing other works. They are very essential, of course. You are the good children. But apart from that, have you ever think of it? Have you ever thought of it? That is, go beyond the day-to-day routine. They don't hesitate even to undertake dangerous expeditions. If that were not the case, a lot of mysterious places and events would not be known to the world. That is also the message we can learn from this lesson. If that were not the case, that is, then even they don't hesitate, the writer and his wife and the children and the crewmen who accompanied them, they didn't hesitate even to undertake dangerous expeditions. If that were not the case, what would be the result? A lot of mysterious places and events would not be known to the world. Such expeditions are risky, of course, but still people go on without caring for even death or disasters. They are very daring. It takes much courage to perform such a task. For them, life is a battle which can be won only after fighting for it, rather than sitting relaxed and carefree. The history of mankind shows that all our progress owes much to such brave and fearless people. That's very important. So the history of mankind shows that all our progress owes much to such brave and fearless people. Perhaps it is in the blood of man to crave for adventures. Man wants to go beyond the known. He prefers untrodden path, that path which were not easily traveled by others. They urge the people to take adventurous expeditions in spite of the risks involved. So, these are all the things which we can learn from this lesson, and so many things are there in this lesson for us to learn. Children, let me sum it up. The other things which you can learn from this lesson, it will help you to understand this lesson. Yet, see, famous quotes of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar comes handy in this juncture. Cowards die many times before their death. Cowards die many times before their death. The valiant taste of death but once. The famous lines of Shakespeare come across in his famous play Julius Caesar. It is advisable to face all the problems and difficulties in life manfully. Never give up hope, never give up courage. Secondly, it is very important to keep your head in moments of distress and problems. One who knows how to keep his head is often successful in handling problems of all kinds. Hence, one must keep one's head under all circumstances. Last but not least, if you are into it together, face the problem together, the spirit of camaraderie, the spirit of togetherness is most important. We sail together or we sing together is the right spirit. We sail together or we sing together. See, we sail together or we sail together or we sing together is the right spirit. Many sticks when tied together, become a strong bundle. Individual sticks get easily broken, but it is impossible to break a bundle. Theme. Okay, next theme. This is what is called a message. So the message we get from this lesson. Then what's the theme of this lesson? Is that you have to know the theme. The story has a string of themes woven into it. String of themes woven into it. First is the human nature of knowing and exploring the unknown and taking on challenges. First theme. Second, so the first theme of this lesson is human nature, knowing and exploring the unknown and taking on challenges. So the first theme. Second, human instincts for survival. That is very important. It's quite common. The tenacious captain and his crew fight the raging storm tooth and nail and come out safely from the jaws of death. So the second human instincts, that is instincts for survival, that is the second theme. Suppose everyone wants to live in the world, no one likes death. When you are very near to death, you will try your level best to come out of it. You want to save yourself. That's the happened. Captain and his crew fight the raging storm. How they fight? Tooth and nail, and come out safely from the jaws of death. Third, human bravery, grit, courage, and determination, which are all exhibited even by little children, Sue and Jonathan, besides their parents and Larry and Herb. That is human bravery. Let me write everything on the board. Human bravery and grit, courage and determination. Grit, courage and determination. Human bravery, grit, courage and determination, which are all exhibited even by little children in this story, like Sue and Jonathan, besides their parents and the crew members Larry and Herb. Fourth one, element of luck. It has also been the theme. The captain's decision to take Larry and Herb as crew proves very lucky, for their role is vital in saving the ship. Luckily, a pinprick of an island. Amsterdam is near enough for the ship to reach safely. 5. Faith in one's optimism and soft presence of mind. It is the good qualities of the captain which are instrumental in the wave walker and its crew's survival. So all these themes were shown in this voyage story, in this round the world voyage story. And then important points of the lesson. And before to that, let me justify the title. What they have given the title, we are not afraid to die. If we can all be together, that was the title of this lesson. Can you justify this title, children? Yeah, of course. How can you justify? You may have sometimes the question on the justification of the title. If you are asked like that, you should know how to prove it. In a moment of extreme distress, John, the 6-year-old son of Gordon Cook, displayed incredible courage and and composure. Daddy, are we going to die? Here asked and added, we are not afraid of dying if we can all be together. These spirited words of young John have formed the title of the lesson. Nothing could have been a better suited title rather than this one. Yeah, of course. The very words reflect the dauntless courage and remarkable camaraderie which were the biggest attributes of the Cook family. Okay, fine. And then I will give you the important points of this lesson that should be noted down, children. Based on these things only, you have to write your classwork notes and you have to answer the worksheets which is going to be followed this lesson. Important points of the lesson. Okay, let me explain one by one. The voyage started in July 1976 from where? From Plymouth seaport of England. They were a family of 4. The author, his wife, son Jonathan 6 and daughter Susan 7. Purpose of the beginning of the voyage. Beginning of the voyage. Members. Okay. Family members and other 2 crew people also joined together. Second, purpose of the voyage was to duplicate the world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. Purpose: to duplicate the voyage made 200 years ago by Captain James Cook. Okay, fine. The journey was planned for 3 years and the total distance to be covered was 105,000 kilometers. See, three years time they have planned for the journey and the distance they have to cover is 105,000 kilometers. They have to cover a distance of 105,000 kilometers. Then the route plan was, I will write it on the board, the route plan. Actually, the route plan was starting point of England via South Africa through Indian Ocean, then to Australia, then Americas, and finally back to England. So, England starting point, from there they have to make via South Africa, England via South Africa. Via South Africa through Indian Ocean. The roughest sea route through Indian Ocean, then to Australia, from there the Americas, from there back to England. So this was the route plan they had. The boat which they used to make this travel was a wave walker. The boat name wave walker. They used a professionally built boat. It was called wave walker. It was 23 meters long. The boat was about 23 meters long, 30-ton wooden hulled boat. 30 tons wooden hulled boat actually it was. So this boat was called a wave walker. And who were the sailors? The narrator, his wife Mary, son Jonathan 6 years old, daughter Susan is 7 years old, Larry Vigil and Herb Seigler. These were the sailors. Okay. So that also I will write it on the board. Sailors. The actual participants in this long voyage. The narrator, his wife Mary, son Jonathan, son Jonathan, 6 years old, and daughter Susani, daughter Susani, she was 7 years old, and 2 crew members. Okay, when they started their voyage, they go around the world voyage. When was it started? From where was it started? Actually, July 1976. July 1976, the voyage begins from Plymouth, seaport of England. From Plymouth, seaport, England. From there, they started the world round voyage. Larry Vigil, America, Herb Seigler, Swiss. So, Larry Vigil, you know that country they belong to. They are the crew members. Larry Vigil, he was an American. They accompanied this long voyage. Herb Seigler, he was Swiss. He was from Swiss. Okay, fine. In the Indian Ocean, December 25th, and voyages reached 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Atrocious weather, but had a wonderful holiday. New Year's Day, no improvement in weather. Okay, January 2, 1977. See, I will give you step by step ideas of this long voyage in the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean, December 25th, the day of Christmas. Voyages reach at the time. Voyages reach 3,500 kilometers of Cape Town. 3,500 kilometers of Cape Town. Atrocious weather. The weather was very atrocious, but had a wonderful holiday. New Year's Day also was celebrated. There was no improvement in weather. Then January 2, 1977, very important date. January 2, 1977. Gigantic waves in the morning, sailing with only a small storm zip, and was still making 8 knots. Ship rises to the top of each wave, endless, enormous sea rolling towards the ship, screaming of wind and spray, painful to ears fighting the sea. The storm zip dropped, the wind double lashed everything, went through life wrapped drill, attached lifeline, dunned oil skins and life sockets. All these things happened in between January 2nd to January 5th. In all these 3 days, they faced a lot of problems. The weather became very atrocious. Gigantic waves they encountered with. They sailed with only small storm zip and were still making 8 knots. Ship roses to the top of each wave, endless, enormous sea rolling towards the ship, screaming of wind and spray, painful to hear, fighting the sea. The storm zip dropped, the wind double lashed everything, went through life wrapped drill, attached lifelines, dunned oil skins and life sockets. Then 6 p.m. January 2nd. Waves higher than ship chased the ship. Mary took the steering wheel. Larry hopped purped to water. Water level rose. Pumps stopped functioning. All electric signals stopped. No communication with the base. Shoe slightly hurt. Let me repeat. 6 p.m. on January 2nd. Waves higher than ship chased the ship. Waves hit the back of the ship, break the starboard, ship about to capsize. Mary took the steering wheel. Larry and Herb pumped water. Water level rose. Pumps stopped functioning. All electric signals stopped. No communication with the base. Sue slightly hurt. January 3rd. January 3rd, auxiliary engine failed. January 3rd, auxiliary engine failed. January 4, water level dipped, headed in direction of Ile Amsterdam. Ate a meal after 48 hours. January 4. January 4, what happened? Water level dipped. After 2 days, water dipped. They were sailing towards the direction of Ile Amsterdam and ate a meal after 48 hours. Okay, fine. January 5th. Write it on the top. January 5th, what happened? January 5th, the weather became worse. Jonathan said, "Dad, we are not afraid to die." Narrator went to sleep. After predicting ship's time to reach Ile Amsterdam, around 6 p.m., ship reached. Around 6 p.m., they reached Amsterdam. Okay. So from this lesson, you can learn a lot. So we should be courageous enough to face. That is the secret of the life. So unless otherwise we are ready to face many mysterious things, we will lose in our lifetime. Okay, thank you children. this is a good lesson. So it shows the optimism, courage, and the board of togetherness that helps them to fight the direct stress and overcome all the odds. So you too, be bold and courageous enough to face the hardships which really comes to trial you. See, take it as an example. It's a pandemic period. During such times, you should be bold enough to face all the hardships of the life. And more than that, children, so by tomorrow you will get the classwork notes for this lesson, as well as the assignment, that is the worksheets. Try to fill all the answers of the worksheet and try to learn many things from the classwork and copy all the classwork neatly, legibly in your classwork note. And whenever you are asked to submit the note for correction, without fail, all of you are supposed to submit all your classwork note. Thank you, children. Till that, stay back at home, stay back safe. Thank you. Have a nice day.